Howdy YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Random Lengths. Today we're going to be taking a short brief look at a phenomenon that most of you woodworkers are quite familiar with, and that's called bird's eye. We find bird's eye in a lot of different species. We predominantly know it from maple, and it occurs in virtually all deciduous woods to a lesser degree in some, and then some it's more predominant. Maple, of course, we all know by its characteristic trademark, and there's going to be some pictures like right here. This one here is not true bird. It is a bird's eye, but it's an advanced stage. You get various stages of it, and the reason being for it we'll get to here in a short minute. Now behind me we've got a hornbeam here, and as you can see, these bumps here on this guy, this is what's known in the forestry world as epicormic branching. And this is a evolutionary remnant of deciduous trees, where when they are shooting a leader up new growth, that they can bud out and create new branches. And in some instances, like here in this stand for example, there's no reason for this to occur. Edge trees, for example, when they're exposed to sunlight, will develop epicormic branches. You'll see that a lot in like fir and spruce, although they're not a deciduous tree. When the bole of the tree is exposed to sunlight due to sudden, a tree falling over or edge trees being cut, they'll develop these epicormic branches in order to shade the bole to keep it from getting sun scalded. And deciduous trees do the same thing, but here you can see, let me go zoom you in. Now here you can see there's little bitty tiny limbs that develop on the stem of the tree, and then some actually develop fully into limbs, and then others just remain as buds just beneath the cambium, or at the cambium layer, and then eventually get swallowed in by the growing bark and the following xylem. And so, in other words, in plain English, they just get pocketed in by the tree, and that's what we see as bird's eye. So, to show you that it occurs in other trees, let me turn you around here. Now here we have it in oak. Excuse me. And as you can see, the tree already developed some limbs, and this is the characteristic of what bird's eye looks like. Now in maple it looks slightly different. You'll get a burl similar to this, where you have little limbs popping out occasionally, but with the maple, again, these are subcutaneous, or I mean, it's not really under the skin, but it's under the bark, and these buds eventually grow into the tree and then never develop into limbs, and that's why we see the development of bird's eyes. So here's a picture of oak, what it looks like in oak. So here you can see the little bark inclusions, and over here, these are the, I'm going to use a pencil here. These are the actual buds that have been enveloped by the tree, and then later on become roots of a new limb. So here's another picture of what it looks like in tamarack, or otherwise known as larch. So this video is kind of geared towards the folks out there that have the capability and the ability of getting at timber, or have their own timber, and can mill it. And so when they see this kind of pattern, this is what they can kind of expect out of that stick of wood that they're about to mill. So it's, you know, no big mystery to the sawmiller, you know, when he gets a log of maple in, that, you know, he can predict what's going to be in it just by looking at the bumps and then the different, you know, swellings on the log. And so he can kind of get a rough idea. And so I hope this helps those folks out there that are just getting into it and, you know, or see this stuff out in the woods and kind of scratch their head and go, gee, wonder what this is all about. Now, not all burls are the same. Not all burls actually develop limbs. Some do. Here, for example, is a cherry burl. Now, this guy wasn't created by epicormic branching, but it has the potential to develop epicormic branches. But this guy here was probably formed by the combination of either a cancer or sun scald or both. It's hard to say at this point. It's been on the tree a long time. Not all burls actually develop limbs. Some do. So it just varies on you know, on circumstances and then also on the timber species. Burls, for example, are usually caused by a form of cancer, but not always. They can also make burls, you know, these epicormic branches can also make small burls. So here we're looking at some older burls, well, not really burls, or well, I guess you call them burls for lack of a better term. The development of epicormic branching, where part of the, or one of the little limbs that was created actually was stayed on long enough and created a sucker limb. Let me zoom you in here. Let's go down here to this lower, whoops. And as you can see, there's further out on the limb, there's some more epicormic branching going on. Now, this is some kind of a genetic defect, obviously. Epicormic branching in limbs is not as common as it is on the stem of the tree. Now, another cause for this kind of epicormic branching in limbs can oftentimes be mistletoe development. In this case, there is no mistletoe in the tree, so it's just kind of a mystery as to what caused it. Now, when we look back further in the stand, we can see that it is probably going to be genetic. When we see this tree back here, let me zoom in a little more. This is also an oak tree, and he exhibits some of the same characteristics. So when it's genetic, you'll see several trees within a stand that exhibit the same kind of traits, the phenotypical traits of disease or whatever, you know, in this case, epicormic branching. That's what we're seeing here is small burls. And like I said, it occurs most often in deciduous timber, on occasion in coniferous, or, well, how would I put that? In your hardwoods, you'll see the bird's eye more often than you will in your softwoods, i.e., you know, needled trees, you know, like pines, spruces, and that sort of thing. So if we were to strip away the bark and the surrounding cambium and other tissues that surround these epicormic branches, this is basically what we'll end up left over with. And this is again the thing that you see in your sawn lumber. So here we've got a little bit of a bird's eye here in the maple, and this of course is also caused by epicormic branching. Now, true bird's eye maple of course looks a little different. This is just the epicormic branching. These are the developed little limbs already. The true bird's eye, let me see if I can find some here. Well, YouTube, that's a wrap for this little short episode of Random Lengths. And for those of you out there planning on doing your own milling in the future, I hope this will help you as a little bit of a guide in trying to identify some of the not so much defects, but characteristics of the timber that you're going to be milling, and in order, you know, and help you look for the kind of wood that you're trying to get, or what you can expect realistically out of the log you're going to get. So if there's any thoughts, comments, critiques, suggestions, by all means, put them in the comment section below. Always love to hear from my subscribers and viewers. And if you're new to the channel, by all means, click on the subscribe button down there. We have a whole plethora of different topics out there, and there's going to be a whole lot more to come in the future, so stay tuned.